Hey guys, so big news today is that I got my hair cut. Woo! Smaller news today is that there was a big takeover of Manchester City for 400 million, but compared to this, it's not important. It was a takeover from China Media Capital, took over Manchester City that Xi Jinping had already visited, coincidentally, of course, and took over 13% of the parent firm. And this is following a wider trend of Chinese businesses investing in European football clubs and things like that. If you take, for example, Slavia Prague, who were actually about to collapse, and 60% of that was bought by a Chinese firm, and they're now 5th in the league. So that's a success story. But it's not all so good. Leaders, for example, another Chinese firm, completely took over a French football club called Sochaux. And actually that didn't go as well at all, and a lot of the fans have been accusing them of not caring about the football scene, but just instead wanting to spread their image on the market, on the European market, and using it just as more of a stage to reach other businesses in Europe and in France. So let me tell you a bit about the story that's led up to this. So what happened first was the Chinese system was attempting to improve the Chinese football scene and things like that, and that's since 2004 when a football revolution was started. And despite the amount of money that was pumped into Chinese football, it just wasn't working until a Guangzhou team called Guangzhou Evergrande. They decided to mimic the European style, and that suddenly took off, and it became very, very successful, and I think won the Asian League 5 times. So there's obviously a success story. And how did they achieve that? Well, as I said, they copied the Western style. But now, what's starting to happen is, in order to copy that Western style, the Chinese need to learn the Western style in the first place. So they're coming into European firms to learn some of that style and take it back to China and expand it in China. And Manchester City, on their page, also said, in partnership with their Chinese investors, that they thought that Manchester City had the ability to provide a wealth of expertise and resources to Chinese football. So I think that really proves my point. So why have the Chinese chosen football as their target? If you take, for example, the fact that President Xi has come out recently saying that he's a football fan, he visited Man City before the deal. So why is it that football has that attention? It seems quite surprising considering the fact that China has never traditionally been involved or interested in football, more basketball, or you can take stereotypically ping pong or various other sports, but not so much football. So why is that? Well, football is a global sport, and it's important all over the world. So to China, that's a really good way to become visible and give an image of success on the global stage, which is something that's seen as important for the Chinese government and for the Chinese people. And so Xi has also said that not only are they going to bid for the World Cup, but they're going to win it. So Xi is ambitious as ever, and maybe he'll manage it. He also says that he's going to that Chinese domestic sports will rise by 2025 to $850 billion, which is also fairly ambitious considering the fact that world sports go up to $400 billion. So that's about half. So good luck with that, Xi, and I hope you manage it. So the next thing is I've talked to quite a few people from Europe to find out the reaction and the kind of feeling that people are getting about the Chinese investors coming to European clubs. So the first thing that was mentioned by a couple of people was Leicester City. They came second in the Premier League, and everyone thinks they're a big success. But what you don't realise is 5 years ago they were really struggling in the Premier League and really not doing very well at all. So what was it that was added that gave them that success? Well, it was actually a Thai investor. So I think Asian investment actually has quite a good reputation right now on the European scene. I asked, that was from a couple of British people. I also asked a Spanish guy who said that it's fine, given that they bring in lots of money in exchange, and he says that it's only part of the globalization process. So he sees it as a wider trend that's going on all over the world, and why should we focus just on this? I also heard, not interviewed myself, but heard a guy called Professor Chadwick, who's from the Sports Business Coventry School, who also said that he thinks that Britain should be open to investment, but that UK standards must also be met regarding safety. So I thought that was interesting in giving us a kind of idea of some of the European impression of Chinese businesses, that yes, they'll be very efficient, yes, they'll get things done, but there's a little bit of a worry there in how thoroughly they'll do it and how safely they'll do it. I talked to another person as well who thought that she couldn't imagine that it would have long-term impacts when the country itself isn't actually all that interested in the sport, which was interesting as well. She also thought that maybe it's a bit hypocritical, given the history of European countries all over the world investing, interfering and doing all kinds of other things in countries all over the world. And to end on a fairly positive note, a couple of people also talked about Bolton and the kind of mess that Bolton is in right now with their owner who doesn't really seem to care. And actually, they would really, really welcome Chinese investment. So on the whole, I think a pretty positive perspective on Chinese investment.